Greetings, dear friends, and welcome once again to Mullah versus Allah, where Allah is not happy.
We have the world's best factory to produce nuclear bombs and idiot mullahs. The Quran should always be, brother, out of reach.
Yes.
Because we have to read it. Therefore, it should not be near your hand.
Yes, yes, it's high.
It's high. It's not in your language. It's not in the order.
What's it doing on the
top
shelf?
What's it doing on the top? And then
dust.
The Quran says, I have made it easy for you to read it. What did the mullahs do? They said,
difficult.
Allah wants it easy. We are mullahs, we will make it difficult. Now we enter the new phase of Turkish imperialism, which, by the way, 600 years colonized Arabia as well. Syria is reacting based on an inherent fear of the barbaric nature of the Turkish Ottomans. And as Muslims, if we are unwilling to accept truth,
we're lying to ourselves on a daily basis.
I wouldn't be able to say what I just said to you on any Canadian network.
Yes.
Because enough people.
Yeah, my channel is zero filter. Say whatever you like. Absolutely.
600 years. And they talk of Israel being occupying Jerusalem. I never saw people marching out on the streets. Hey, Turkey, get out of Jerusalem.
The creation of Israel happened around the same time as the creation of Pakistan.
Yes.
Why is it okay? Why is it acceptable for us Muslims to oppose the creation of Israel just because we believe that it occupied Palestine, but we can't say anything about the creation of Pakistan and how it took a massive chunk out of Hindu India?
Absolutely. No, this is very interesting. Spain publishes more books in a year than Egypt and Lebanon and Syria have published since they came out of existence. India comes from the root word Indus. The Indus is where Indian civilization erupts from Mohenjo-daro 5,000 years ago. The word, the letter, the concept of running water, city, and no armaments come from the Indus. You take that away and give it to Muslims? They'll throw in Al and Ibn without knowing what does it mean. I was born in Pakistan.
I'm sorry to hear that.
You better be. It explains some of my idiosyncrasies.
Lahore belongs to you. Take it. We don't want these
not only that.
Ahmadiyya and so on.
No, let me add another gentleman.
Right.
That a Jew is your enemy.
We're not like them.
No, they are not like us. We cannot build over another religion's property. The Umayyad Mosque of Damascus, the Babri Mosque in India. A woman said that a hijab was cut.
Yes.
There was no evidence. And the Prime Minister spoke. Our pretty boy, he came out of nowhere. He says, Haram, ya Sheikh, haram. For I am Trudeau and I bring blessings to Muslims. Send me your jihadis. Send me your Salafis. You know, we are in a bad shape here.
And then this whole thing turned out to be a lie.
Some of the most nastiest of Islamists lost on all three parties. Alhamdulillah.
Right. Alhamdulillah.
Pakistanis fell like 9 pins. Some of the most nastiest of people got kicked very, very selectively in very places that hurt quite a lot. And I needn't explain more. Sitting MPs were kicked out. MPPs wanted to be MPPs with strong backing of the Pakistan embassy and the consulate. They lost, came third. I'm very happy. 10 of them lost, mashallah. Right. But some good people won. A friend of mine, Faisal Hassan, he's a young Somali poet in English. He won. There's a Bangladeshi woman, young Dolly Begum. She's won both on the NDP. I'm glad that there are young people coming up who do not identify primarily as Muslim. They primarily are Canadian.
They
just happen to be following a faith that is Islam.
In Australia, we have Hizb ut-Tahrir females that come out and say, beating us is a blessing.
The last time NDP had a government in Ontario, our Premier, Bob Rae, embraced Salman Rushdie when he was being hunted down. And he was the only politician in the West who said to Salman Rushdie, come here, let's get photographed together. And he thumbed his nose at the Khomeinis. A week ago, the same leader of the NDP was being introduced by a woman who would have supported
the killing of Salman Rushdie.
A subtle hatred towards Western civilization. That is why you're saying that I will not let you see my hair. Even though under the hijab, you've got a beehive dressed up to leave the impression, oh, I wonder what's underneath that.
I think now, going back to this whole issue of imams that we have in the West and the influence by the Pakistani ISI and the Turkish aspirations of having a caliphate, another Ottoman Empire, the funding of these imams, the way these imams are funded, so royalties and books and so on. And
Allah must be sitting up there and say, what? Like, what is this? Who invented blue mascara? And you have contempt for people who have no relation to head hair and sexuality. Oh, the most sick of a person would say, I saw a woman's hair. Oh.
Linda Sarsour.
Yes, can you imagine?
Never wore the hijab.
Yes.
As soon as she wanted to be able to play the victim card.
Hijab.
All of that.
It's a switch.
It is, because you cannot argue with a woman wearing a hijab.
I know.
You're seen as a hateful. Misogynist.
Yeah. Why don't men wear hijab? You and I should try that. The anti-immigration problem becomes a hand in the ultra-right.
Right.
And as soon as the ultra-right speaks against Muslims,
labels them,
racist. The Islamists win.
No,
but they win.
Yes.
In Canada, the fight against motion M103, if done by Muslims, will win. If done by people who hate Muslims, the jihadis will win. Christians can have a printing press and Muslims can write with the hand, resulting in massive illiteracy amongst Muslims and Christians becoming universally literate as the only community.
This is amazing. So the Muslim Caliphate said that you cannot print because the printer.
Yeah. I'm serious, Imam. It is not a joke. That's why when we take the Quran, we don't keep it anywhere where it is readable. So we put it at a place where nobody can reach it. How do you put a place in a book that you want everyone to read, but put it at a place, thou shalt not reach that place? Are you nuts? You keep a book that you want to read where people can read it. Don't laugh. God will lift you right now in front of me and you will disintegrate.
Greetings, dear friends, and welcome once again to Mullah versus Allah, where Allah is not happy. I am your host, Imam Tawhidi, and once again our dear guest, Tarek Fatah. Tarek, thank you very much for joining me.
Assalamu alaikum, how are you doing?
Excellent, really happy. We heard the Chancellor of Austria make a very serious decision. And as an Imam, I could sort of understand the weight of such a decision. That 60 up to 60 Muslim faith leaders
have been asked to
that
get out.
Exactly. Live, preach, operate within Austria, served a notice that you are to leave the country.
You're not welcome here.
And the mosques also, several of them will be shut down.
Precisely. I read that. And the first reaction I had was, how will the guilt-ridden white left-wing leadership of Europe react to that? because currently what is considered European is essentially German, French, or English. The Catholic belt at the south, the Italy, Spain, Portugal, or even Greece to a degree, they are rather the left out of the mainstream. But you have to understand the significance of where and how Austria stands in the history of Islamdom. Austria, specifically Vienna, twice in 2 successive centuries was under an Ottoman-led siege.
Right.
Headed by Janissaries, who were Turkish soldiers taken as POWs from non-Muslim dead parents and raised to fight Janissary, to give their lives for the Islamic Caliphate.
Right.
That's how obnoxious this scenario was, because the Turks, you have to give some credit to them, they realized that a Janissary or a soldier who has no parents is not going to challenge the Caliphate.
Yes.
So you dedicate yourself, and these like fresh converts. And twice in the last siege, in the 17th century, Europe's entire Reformation, Renaissance, Enlightenment period that followed could have been wiped out.
Correct.
If Vienna had fallen.
Right.
And the only reason they were saved is because the Lithuanians and the Poles intervened on the side of the besieged Austrians, or the Viennese at the time, and defeated the Turks. Now we enter the new phase of Turkish imperialism, which, by the way, 600 years colonized Arabia as well.
Yes.
Let's keep that in perspective.
Not forget it, yes.
Not forget it, including the Turks and the Ottomans fought the Persians. And the Persians at that time wanted to be allies of the West. They were talking how to contain this. And the only reason Europe survived, by the way, is because part of the Turkish army was deployed killing the Persians.
Yes.
In fact, even the Persian leadership, that royalty was Turkish. So that if you don't have that context in mind, you cannot understand why the Austrian Chancellor is reacting like that. He's a young fellow. I think he's not even in his mid-30s. They know what is the real threat of a supremacist political version of Islam. The Germans, the British, and the French haven't got a clue, because the German, British, and French interaction with Islamdom comes when the decline of the Muslim empire is set so deeply that the only Muslims that the French run into are the ones who are defeated, who have no sovereignty over them. The Turks have run them dry. The British come to India, where they run into the Mughal Empire. The Germans went to South Africa, Namibia, or those parts, but they never faced an attack on themselves by them. So Austria is reacting based on an inherent fear of the barbaric nature of the Turkish Ottomans. And as Muslims, if we are unwilling to accept truth, let's forget about reconciliation. If you recall what happened in South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission cannot happen till truth is spoken.
Yes.
We are still lying.
We are. We're lying to ourselves on a daily basis.
Not only daily basis, we are lying to ourselves at least 24 times a day when we believe through a false hadith that the Quran is cursing the Jews.
Yes.
This is beyond. And the Austria, now it is not fashionable or acceptable. I wouldn't be able to say what I just said to you on any Canadian network.
Yes.
Because enough people.
Yeah, my channel is zero filter. Say whatever you like. Absolute free speech.
Truth always rises. By the way, India's motto is that the truth always rises. And that's why I'm a great fan of Indian civilization. They've amalgamated everything that came to them, including the Prophet's family. And they've evolved into a country where the motto is this.
Right. So basically, thank you very much for this wonderful explanation. Now we understand that the Chancellor of Austria, the Honorable Sebastian Kurz, has actually made such a decision based on a history of bad experience.
And evidence.
And evidence for
And
that,
evidence.
in reality. And that he saw these imams do not belong in Austria. Goodbye to all of them.
If they don't look like Austrians, and by that means you could even be black and look like Austrian,
Right.
then you have no business being there. If you want to look like someone from the 12th century, riding a camel somewhere in Hijaz, Najd or Hindustan,
Right.
go to Somalia.
Because clearly there are more than just 60 imams within Austria. There should be at least 500.
Or more than that. And they are on
Probably.
Turkish government payroll.
Yes. Why are these 60 being funded? And if they are being funded, who is funding them? And do they have expectations from them?
The one wrong thing that Ataturk did was he thought that if the state controlled the clerics,
Yes.
the clerics will behave.
And he will control the
He would
religion on top
control.
of that.
Yeah. Except he didn't realize that if a fascist like Erdogan controlled the state,
The clerics run
the
the show.
clerics run the show.
Yes.
That is why democracy is the essence of our civilization. Because we get a chance every 4 years to throw someone out. In Turkey, you simply arrest 10,000 people, fire them, and kill them.
Stay in power.
And stay in power forever. They have arrived in the 21st century, but the mentality is of the 12th century. And they really think that it's just a matter of switching digits. So it's the same, 12th, 21st. Honey, this is ridiculous.
It is. So I just want to remind you of certain issues because as a man of Iraqi background, during the rise of the popular mobilization forces of the Iraqi government, around 3 million Iraqi youth formed a coalition, an army, to throw ISIS out of Iraq.
Yes.
And they head towards Mosul and they recaptured the city, and it was a victory for the Iraqis against ISIS and its invasion. During this time, Erdogan sent an entire army, a brigade, into Iraqi soil
Absolutely.
just to
To
say...
help ISIS.
Yes, to help ISIS.
Not only that, in Syria as well.
Exactly.
In Syria.
But this is what has happened now. I don't know if his intention was to help or not, but the
Of course.
outcome...
Of
the
course
outcome,
it is a help. He and Qatar and Saudi Arabia at different times.
The point-
This is a competition. Who is going to invest so that they can go to paradise?
Yes. The other matter that was really, really concerning for the Iraqi government is that when he was told to leave and respect the sovereignty of Iraq, he said, look who's talking to me, the Prime Minister of Iraq.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him because the Prime Minister of Iraq, Haider Abadi, is an absolute joke.
But still, he's a PM.
Yeah, he's a PM, but he didn't respect the Iraqi nation.
Mugabe too was there.
It turns out that Erdogan has this passion and aspiration to gain land that was once upon a time part of the Ottoman Empire.
Of course it is.
And Mosul and Kirkuk and these areas
All of them.
fall within that.
Not just that.
Austria is one of them.
Yes, Austria, the Arabian Gulf, Somalia, Egypt, Libya. The first wars that the American Marines, when they talk about, Tripoli, landing on the shores of Tripoli, is not about Gaddafi.
Yeah.
It's about the Turks and their supporting of the pirates, who even went up to Iceland in the orders that were placed with them to get concubines, fair-looking, blue-eyed concubines. They went to Iceland to bring them. That's what Muslims don't know about the caliphate.
They don't. They think
don't.
it's all about human rights and
Human rights? 600 years they occupied Jerusalem. 600 years. And they talk of Israel being occupying Jerusalem. I never saw people marching out on the streets, hey, Turkey, get out of Jerusalem. No. Jerusalem was made by the Turks into a place of squalid backwardness, where you
Yes.
sent prisoners. Well, they didn't even treat Mecca and Medina as.
Speaking of the creation of Israel, many of these imams, I want to direct the discussion this way, if I may. Many of these imams do come from Pakistan.
Yeah, well, we have the world's best factory to produce nuclear bombs and idiot mullahs. It's a bizarre and effective combination that should put fear in the hearts of serious people, but they don't, because most of the West thinks the world ends at Iran. It's a four-letter word,
It's not.
and they're white people who live there.
It doesn't end
Beyond the Himalayas is India, Pakistan, dragons, monkeys, cows, volcanoes erupting, tourists going to Goa or Bali. Nobody takes east of Iran seriously.
Right.
So we are thought of as Pakistanis, as those who come from there, as cab drivers.
Right. So the creation of Israel happened around the same time as the creation of Pakistan.
Yes.
Why is it okay? Why is it acceptable for us Muslims to oppose the creation of Israel just because we believe that it occupied Palestine, but we can't say anything about the creation of Pakistan and how it took a massive chunk out of Hindu India?
Absolutely. Now, this is very interesting. We can't, first of all, because we're illiterate people. I can show you a slide that we can put it later on. In the year 1800, 80% of the world's population was illiterate.
Right.
Even now, because of the Enlightenment era, where literacy was considered a technology which should be shared by all, even now there's 20% literacy in the Muslim world. So nobody reads, let alone write anything.
So Egypt and Lebanon just publish.
They publish. Spain publishes more books in a year than Egypt and Lebanon and Syria have published since they came out of existence. Since the printing press
Yes.
was born, it took 200 years for the Sultan of Turkey to accept it. 200 miles in 200 years. And they said, you cannot do printing. So the point I'm making is, in such depths of illiteracy, what is real tragedy is that those Pakistani Muslims born in the West, they are among the most radical supporters of illiteracy. Because in front of them, you cannot have even a discussion. We've just had an experience with someone else who was here who just freaked out and said, I can't discuss these issues. And if you don't discuss these issues, this parallel that you put forward, okay, what we say is what is good for the goose is good for the gander. So let's play this again. India comes from the root word Indus. The Indus is where Indian civilization erupts from Mohenjo-daro, 5,000 years ago. The word, the letter, the concept of running water, city, and no armaments come from the Indus. You take that away and give it to Muslims?
This type of fundamentalist, extremist,
Yes.
world-hating.
India hating. India, Hindu, and Jew hating. That are the three premises of the country that is Pakistan. You first hate the Hindu. You say, I'm a separate people. Because somebody invaded us, raped our forefathers and their mothers, and etc. And so now we are half-baked fake Arabs or Persians, and therefore we will hate. And it's not just in Pakistan. Indian Muslims, mashallah. Oh my God. There is no Indian Muslim with an Indian name.
Right.
Erdogan is a Turkish name.
Everyone threatening me is Faisal.
Al. They're throwing Al and Ibn without knowing what does it mean. I know people whose name was Salim and they became Al Salim, as if this was a promotion. So suddenly you don't have to go to Hajj. You just put an Al before that. They don't know, put an Ibn over there. None of them are respectful of their forefathers.
None of them.
No Egyptian is disrespectful of his heritage. Slightly they are, but they still accept that the pyramids were done not by Muslims, but
By the pharaohs and
we who live, I was born in Pakistan.
I'm sorry to hear that.
You better be. It explains some of my idiosyncrasies. But we were told day one that a Hindu was a dirty person, that a Jew is your enemy.
We're not like them.
No, they are not like us. That's the trash. We conquered them. Delhi is ours. We made Pakistan, so we will ultimately go and attack them and reconquer Delhi. And in doing that, they lost Bangladesh.
Yes.
The majority of Pakistanis changed their name and became Bangladesh. They don't realize that, by the way. Neither do the Pakistanis. Again, if you can't read, you're not going to read. So look at it this way. The Indus River taken away, Lahore, named after the son of Lord Rama. There's no Hindu living in it. It's like Mecca not having a Muslim.
Wow. How do the Hindus not want their rights back?
The Hindus also don't know. The Hindus of India are so busy doing MBAs and making money, they are just closeted. They have their own faults.
My Hindu brothers in India, fight for your rights. Lahore belongs to you.
I did it.
Lahore, fight for your rights on a diplomatic level. I'm not saying take arms and go. On a diplomatic level.
At least on television.
On television, on media. Lahore belongs to you. Take it. We don't want these
not only that.
Ahmadiyya and so on.
No, let me add another gentleman. Maharaja Dahir, Raja Dahir as we call them in Sindh, was the man who gave refuge to the family of Prophet Muhammad in Sindh.
Offspring.
The great-grandnephews of Imam Hassan, their mazar is over there, the people come there to pray. And shrines are there.
Festivals.
The Umayyad vagabonds sent a general to destroy and kill the family of the Prophet.
Right.
Who do you think is a hero in Pakistan?
Of course.
The Arab general.
General, yes.
He kidnapped 40,000 Hindu and Buddhist women of Sindh and sold them in the markets of Damascus.
In this Palestine. Because Damascus was Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria.
It was Bilad Sham.
Yes,
right?
all of this was one place.
Bilad Sham, it was one place. They were sold over there, then gifted away all across the Islamic empire. And mind you, at that time, Makkah was under a different caliphate, and we are not even taught that.
Yes.
Oh, what's his name?
Zubair.
Zubair was the caliph. And they had made another Hajj substitute, which is this golden temple, around which they would do Hajj. In Jerusalem, over the Jewish temple.
Yes, which, by the way, the Muslim building, which was built by the caliphs, should be destroyed legally and Islamically.
Because it is un-Islamic, you cannot build over another religion's property. The Umayyad Mosque of Damascus, the Babri Mosque in India, the Turkish, Istanbul, the Eastern Orthodox.
Even in Islamic jurisprudence, you cannot pray here without my permission.
Absolutely.
So how can you build a mosque and
over
say
a church?
Even if it was Solomon's buildings, Solomon is my prophet. I am calling for Solomon's rights.
Here's the point. The notion to first claim that we conquered the lands of Palestine.
Right.
And Umar was on a camel, and he single-handedly, with his slave in front of him, Umar was leading the camel and supposedly the slave was up there. They went and conquered Jerusalem.
And kidnapped the governor.
Kidnapped the governor, made him clean the dirt banks, all that. And then we claim that these Jews are the occupiers. And if India claims Sindh, which is in the national anthem of India, would they be wrong?
No, it's their right.
Is Punjab where the Mahabharata was written, where Kurukshetra, where the great epics were written, where the sons of Ram, I am not saying change anything. I'm saying acknowledge the truth.
And the reality of things.
The reality. If you can't be truthful, there's a reason why. I'll give you a news just today that 3 women at a Toronto subway stop had their hijabs pulled at the back. Now you would think someone anti-Muslim did it. It was done by another Muslim man.
Amazing. A Muslim man
Yes,
pulling the
Sayyid
hijab.
Ahmad Abdullahi, mashallah, took 3 Muslim women and yanked the heads. What is he trying to do here? He's trying to create a situation whereby the woman can then come around and file a case saying a hijabs were attacked.
And then the media
will follow who?
The victim card.
Absolutely.
But they won't tell you that it's
They
a
got
Muslim
it.
versus Muslim issue.
No, it wasn't. It was all staged. I can bet you. There's been another incident in Toronto. A woman said that a hijab was cut.
Yes.
There was no evidence. And the Prime Minister spoke. Our pretty boy. He came out of nowhere. He says, Haram, ya Sheikh, haram. For I am Trudeau and I bring blessings to Muslims. Send me your jihadis. Send me your Salafis. You know, we are in a bad shape here.
And then this whole thing turned out to be a lie. And
that turned out to be a lie. I am placing my bets, and I can take bets with odds against this guy. But Mr. Abdullahi had nothing to do, had no concern over the hijab. Mr. Abdullahi's intentions could very well have been to create this mess and then the women to scream, Islamophobes, Islamophobes.
Why now? Why election time? Because there are provincial elections.
Well, this happened after the election, one day after the election. But election time is fun time. Some of the most nastiest of Islamists lost on all 3 parties. Alhamdulillah.
Right. Alhamdulillah.
Pakistanis fell like 9 pins. Some of the most nastiest of people got kicked very, very selectively in very places that hurt quite a lot. And I needn't explain more. Sitting MPs were kicked out. MPPs wanted to be MPPs with strong backing of the Pakistan embassy and the consulate. They lost, came third. I'm very happy. 10 of them lost, mashallah. Right. But some good people won. A friend of mine, Faisal Hassan, he's a young Somali poet in English. He won. There's a Bangladeshi woman, young Dolly Begum. She's won both on the NDP. I'm glad that there are young people coming up who do not identify primarily as Muslim. They primarily are Canadian. They just happen to be following a faith that is Islam.
Yes, and I am actually very concerned about this whole concept of the one Muslim nation. That a Muslim living in Canada has allegiance to a Islamic government. If the Mufti in Saudi Arabia issues a fatwa, the man here in Canada blows himself up. In Sydney, stabs people. Why? Because someone in Iran issued a fatwa. What's this link that brings all these fundamentalists together? I am very against this.
But there's no mystery. Their only identity, I've said it again, they look around and they find nothing that they've contributed in the last 500 years in their tribe.
We have astronomers and mathematicians.
Yes, we did.
Who we killed and murdered anyway.
We killed and murdered anyway. But I want to draw your attention to Adonis. Great poet from Syria. And he says, if there is no reformation, take a look. This Syrian gentleman is a great poet, and he's talking in this interview about what needs to change about the reading of Islam, how we see it, how do we study it, what do we do with it. He's not a religious person, but he is the T.S. Eliot of the Arabic language. At this age, if he's talking about his pain, I mean, Edward Said's writing at the back, if you see, he's saying this has to be understood. Edward Said is not a Muslim, but still is very widely respected among in the Arab world. And there is absolutely no way out as long as Hamas is there, as long as Hijaz is under occupation, as long as Najd is not considered to be what the Prophet said, that I get hot air always from Najd. He was referring to those places from where very mad people arose in the 19th century and destroyed us all for a very long time.
Right. Very interesting. So do you think now, going back to this whole issue of imams that we have in the West and the influence by the Pakistani ISI and the Turkish aspirations of having a caliphate, another Ottoman Empire, the funding of these imams, the way these imams are funded, so royalties and books and so on, and you know, they send them...
They're in the banks. The Sharia banks are doing that.
Smuggling money, money laundering, all of this. Now, do you believe as a Canadian, because as an Australian, I fear for my country. I demand stronger borders and much more serious government when it comes to dealing with refugees and so on. How do you see the future of Canada turning out when there are new terminologies introduced to this entire global discussion that originate from the current government, the reformed jihadists and the rehab of returned ISIS fighters and so on and so forth? How do you see the future of Canada?
Look, my issue is not with migrants coming here. Anyone who has an accent is a safe person.
Anyone with an accent is a safe person.
Yeah, seriously. He's looking for a job. If you got to worry, you got to worry about those who are born over here.
Right. So the second, third generation.
It's getting worse. And the whole notion that you can be born in this country and have utter contempt for the Reformation or for the Enlightenment or for the Renaissance or for the French and English origins of the Dominion of Canada. How is that possible? Why are you here? So the danger is from there. So when we raise these issues, the anti-immigration problem becomes a hand in the ultra-right.
Right.
And as soon as the ultra-right speaks against Muslims,
labels them,
racist. The Islamists win.
No,
but they win.
Yes.
In Canada, the fight against Motion M103, if done by Muslims, will win. If done by people who hate Muslims, the jihadis will win. And it is this distinction that our politicians, both on the left and right, cannot understand. I don't blame them. They didn't bargain to get into this mess. After 400 years of civilization, they're suddenly going back and talking about the gates of Vienna. For goodness sake, that's 16th century. But for the guy who really hates Austria, it's now. He or she, and many of them are she. I was at the NDP convention, the last event that was held before the election. I discovered one of the candidates had 2 wives.
Wow.
And I discovered 3 women who I talked with, who I didn't know were supporters of polygamy, getting very upset at me because they thought I was pointing at him.
Shocking.
And she was saying, my husband can have 3 wives.
In Australia, we have Hizb ut-Tahrir females that come out and say, beating us is a blessing.
This was coming from the Somali community. And these were born in Canada women. The nail polishes were purple. The hairstyles were exotic. The dark glasses were out of this world, which every North American politician will see as enlightened, reformed Muslims.
Right, progressive.
Progressive, they are the worst. Then she made another mistake, the leader of the NDP. This is, the last time NDP had a government in Ontario, our Premier, Bob Rae, embraced Salman Rushdie when he was being hunted down. And he was the only politician in the West who said to Salman Rushdie, come here, let's get photographed together. And he thumbed his nose at the Khomeinis. A week ago, the same leader of the NDP was being introduced by a woman who would have supported
the killing of Salman Rushdie.
Yes. She was in hijab, she was exotic, first class English. Do you think people in their homes watching,
but
the
you
NDP
see,
leader being introduced by a hijabi would have said, ah, what a delight. Even though the NDP was running 5 Muslim women who do not wear the hijab,
But because this one has the hijab,
Hijab, and she's not even a candidate.
then that's a political statement.
Not only that, she had her arms around a city councillor
Wow.
while having the hijab. I've got the video.
Wow.
What do you think is going to happen? The white left wing is thinking, let's reach out. And everybody else who is real working class knows that there is a subtle hatred towards Western civilization. That is why you're saying that I will not let you see my hair. Even though under the hijab you've got a beehive dressed up to leave the impression, oh, I wonder what's underneath that. This is not the dress of any Somali, any Pakistani, any Indian, any Afghan, any Iranian.
What do you call these camel humps?
I call them beehive hijabs.
Right, how they dress up and then there's this massive thing sticking
That's
out like a camel
that's
hump.
what probably when the
Because it's not Islamic. As a Muslim
No, no.
imam, I know very well.
yeah, how could be Islamic?
It's
That
not
you're wearing a hijab and blue mascara, red lipstick, and a 6-inch stiletto with jeans that my walking stick would fit into. That's modesty, for crying out loud. Who is cheating? God? I mean, Allah must be sitting up there and say, what? Like, what is this? Who invented blue mascara? What's blue got to do with your face is my problem, but that's a different...
mascara actually rhymes with maskhara.
I
Maskhara
know.
means nonsense in Arabic.
I'm not even that, you're a joker. Mascara in adapted Urdu is a guy who's a joker. But we are the jokers. I mean, well, why are we wearing this? And you born in this country? And you have contempt for people who have no relation to head hair and sexuality. Oh, the most sick of a person would say, I saw a woman's hair. Oh, I'm turned on. No, that's not how it works. It never worked. The headdress was to get shade, not shame. Yeah, I know we're illiterate, but shade is not shame.
Many would disagree with you on that. In fact,
Alhamdulillah, let them disagree.
In fact,
I have no problems, by the way, covering the head.
yes.
I will fight for the right to do it. I'm just saying, be honest.
Don't impose it on other people.
No, not only that, don't try to incorporate and be superior Muslims by wearing what the Muslim Brotherhood tells you.
Yes, and
All of Pakistan wears. We have the dupatta, you know that.
the
we wear it.
Sikhs,
Yeah, Sikhs,
some Orthodox
Muslim.
Jews, Mother of Jesus will reveal.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem with
I
that.
don't have any.
Politicizing the hijab.
Yes, it's a flag of the Muslim Brotherhood. That's
Linda Sarsour
yes. Can you imagine?
never wore the hijab.
Yes,
As soon as she wanted to be able to play the victim card,
hijab.
all of the...
It's a switch.
It is, because you cannot argue with a woman wearing a hijab.
I know.
You're seen as a hateful,
Hateful.
misogynist.
Yeah. Why don't we wear it? Men wear hijab. You and I should try that.
No, whenever I'm in a suit and tie, people actually confront me on certain issues. But whenever I'm wearing my turban, whatever I say is the gospel.
That's your get out of jail free card.
No, which is why I like to be very comfortable around people. And I say, look, I'll wear my religious garbs when I need to. And obviously they come with serious laws and regulations.
Yes, yes.
You can't walk a bit fast with them. You can't answer the
I know,
phone. You have to have closed shoes. And I respect the laws that come with that dress code. However, I only wear them when I'm addressing an audience and representing my faith and my religion. But when I'm running a show, you should be able to confront me, disagree with me, and you shouldn't have to look like someone who doesn't know their religion or know what they're talking about.
You see, one thing I really feel, and I am thinking about writing this, that the Quran as it was revealed, the greatest injustice done to Muslims is that the Quran that we have in our hands is not the way it was revealed. 300 copies were burnt. The Prophet died without the Quran being in proper shape.
The goat.
Even leave the goat ate the Quran joke aside, but Usman burnt 300 versions of the Quran.
Yes.
Even that I understand. But to say that the first surah is the first surah when it is not, is a lie. Surah Fatah is not Surah Fatiha. Alaq is Surah Fatiha. When you say, read in the name of the Lord who created you. The order, once you put it in order, you understand the chronological development of the religion as the Prophet is supposedly receiving these revelations. We've mixed it on a basis of size, and by the way, somebody has tried it. This is Hashim Amir Ali from an Indian Islamic scholar.
If you want to hold it up to the camera.
Yeah. So Hashim Amir Ali went out of his way to put everything, he's from Hyderabad, India, in a chronological fashion. But he dare not say it is chronology. He had to say presented in perspective.
Because
Fatwa would come against
fatwa.
him. And the truth, which is how it was revealed, and if you read it in the order of revelation, it's beautiful poetry. I'm not exaggerating.
The mathematic calculations and everything would just make sense.
Yeah, but the way it has been passed on to us ensures that only the Hafiz al-Quran knows what it is. If we change the order to how it was meant to be, every Hafiz al-Quran will be jobless.
Right. Now coming to the memorizers of the Quran and the Imams. As a Muslim Imam, I obviously know that the clerical system and the clergymen do not want to be challenged intellectually. And therefore they make up lots of things as they go on in order to create loopholes. And some of them are trained for it. I observed my own teachers applying that in class when I would question them on certain issues. Why is it that the Hafiz of Quran does not want the Muslim to understand the Quran completely?
It's a question of like the Katibs did not want the printing press.
So Islam, as a religion that's only 1,400 years old,
yes,
is just going through that phase where the internet is seen as an insect net that has influenced and infiltrated and brought this entire information out to the public.
Let me put it in perspective. Up till the year 1800, 80% of the world was illiterate. Which means that in the Muslim world, the number of illiterates was much higher. Because 1800 means the era of literacy and enlightenment has been triggered. Right. You're close to the steam engine, things are being invented, theories are being contested, the Calvinists are fighting with in Geneva, all that is happening. So if 80%, let's take it at 80%, Muslims have never read the Quran at any time in our history. In the year 632, none of our armies that went to the West had the Quran.
None of them.
Because there was no paper. So the soldiers that were sent by the Umayyads to Morocco, and an entire army got lost going south because of the Sahara Desert. That's where they stopped. And then the Berbers headed north. They didn't have the Quran with them. Right. You could not produce.
So it came in the golden age where the paper was stolen.
Yes, from China.
From China.
And then in Andalusia, where the coming together of the Jewish and Muslim heretics, as I would say, Maimonides and Averroes, I would love to be at that time, but both of them were quite naughty in how they dealt with it. And they brought these things of questioning. But by the time they were driven out in the 14th century, out of Spain, the Reconquista, and they went to Turkey, the Turks declared jihad on Europe. And so learning again stopped over there. In India, when the printing press came and the Mughal emperor was told that these Jesuits have come and they want this printing press, he said, well, what does the Khalifa say in Turkey? The Khalifa has declared it kufr, bid'ah,
invention into the religion.
And plus that when an iron plate hits the name of Allah Islam. It is. You look at the fatwas. So the Indians rulers, give them some credit. They said, how do we deal with this? They said, okay, Christians can have a printing press and Muslims can write with the hand, resulting in massive illiteracy amongst Muslims and Christians becoming universally literate as the only community.
This is amazing. So the Muslim,
He said,
the Muslim Caliphate said that you cannot print because the printer.
yeah. I'm serious, Imam. It is not a joke. That's why when we take the Quran, we don't keep it anywhere where it is readable.
So
we put it at a place where nobody can reach it. How do you put a place in a book that you want everyone to read, but put it at a place, thou shalt not reach that place? Are you nuts? You keep a book that you want to read where people can read it. It should be on the. I have been to Mecca before the
sorry,
uprising.
I had to laugh.
No.
So the viewers might not understand this. The printing.
Don't laugh. God will lift you right now in front of me and you will disintegrate. But
I've never laughed this hard in Canada.
If you have to say, I was there in Mecca when the military operation took place. November 20th, 1979. It was my 30th birthday. Before that date, in Haram, you could find the Quran everywhere.
Yes.
It was on the portions, at the floor, in wooden cases, everywhere. People could dress any way they want. There were discussions in Makkah that would reinvigorate you. I used to go from spot to spot just to hear scholars debate. Shias and Sunnis.
Yes. Sufis. Theology was.
It was beyond belief. I couldn't imagine. I would stay there on my holidays just to hear these arguments. Since they didn't allow my wife to join me till about a year later. So what does a bachelor do in Jeddah? He drives to Mecca to listen to the mullahs. But after November 20th, 1979, a month after the whole thing was destroyed, you couldn't find any Quran anywhere in discussion unless it was at the top. I am sure some Pakistani scholars went there and said, the Quran should always be, brother, out of reach.
Yes.
Because we have to read it. Therefore, it should not be near your hand.
Yes, it's high.
It's high. It's not in your language. It's not in the order.
What's it doing on the
top
top
What's it doing
shelf?
on the top? And
Collecting
then
dust.
The Quran says, I have made it easy for you to read it. What did the mullahs do? They said,
difficult.
Allah wants it easy. We are mullahs, we will make it difficult.
Dear friends, and this is the end of the show, Mullah versus Allah. May you all be blessed. Goodbye.